This is Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus from the PFF NFL show, talking about how important Deshaun Watson is to this year's team.
The Browns obviously need Deshaun Watson to be not even the 90-plus player that he was in 2020. It's really the low 80s player that he was. I mean, it looked like he had this ascent into the elite quarterbacks where there was a point in Watson's career where the production was a little bit higher than the actual PFF grade. The Will Fuller effect, Sam, that's what that is. And having DeAndre Hopkins for big chunks of his career. But he got better in 2020. And, only 6 games last year, but 55 grade looked nothing like what he was previously. So that's what's really intriguing about the Browns and their potential. They're sitting on Deshaun Watson at quarterback where the potential is there, and then guys like JOK and guys like Elijah Moore.
And, Tom, you were out at mini camp. Was there a noticeable difference in him? I mean, you could tell the throwing is always – I remember watching him throw, and I'm like, I haven't seen anybody throw like that in a Browns uniform. Yeah. Was he noticeably more comfortable, more in control, or are we reading way too much into that this early?
Yeah, I think all of the above, Dave, as you just mentioned, but I think beyond that is that we're just viewing him through a different prism. It's the uncertainty has been lifted off of last summer. So while we were watching him in OTAs and minicamp last year, it was watching him and thinking, okay, how long is he going to be around for? Is he going to be suspended for 4 games, for 8 games, for the entire season? We didn't know. And so I think when we watched him last year, that was kind of hanging over this team, which in some ways is unfair to have to look at Deshaun that way, but it is what it is. And so the changes that I saw, Dave, were in just the way he kind of commanded himself on the field. I think he now knows that this is his team. There's no reason for him not to take full control of this team. And so I think in terms of, not only in the way that he threw, but in his body language and just the way he interacted with his teammates and Kevin Stefanski and the rest of the coaching staff, there was just this sense that, all right, I'm ready. All the other stuff is out of the way. Let's go. And so I just felt like there was a certainty and a comfort about him that we just weren't able to see last year, except for those 6 games when the suspension was lifted. So listen, as you mentioned before, we have never seen a quarterback with this skill set in Browns history. And that's with all due respect to the Brian Sipes and Bernie Kosars and Otto Grahams and Tim Couches and right on down the line. If you want to list off the other 27 we've had here since 1999, go right ahead. But we have not seen a quarterback of this caliber. Now, is he amongst the elite quarterbacks in the AFC? He was, but that was also 3 years ago now. And I think, when we talked last year about the 700-day layoff, rather, between games when he finally did come back last year. Well, now he's played 6 games in 1,000 days. So there still is that rust factor. I don't want to take anything away from the PFF guys there, but I'm always cautionary about guys that put up big numbers on bad teams. And that's exactly what Deshaun Watson did in 2020 with the Houston Texans. That was a 4-12 team. I find it akin to those guys that hit the 3-run homer when the team is already up 7-2. What does it really mean? So, I take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt in terms of when you start throwing those statistics around. But, they need him to play amongst the top 5 quarterbacks in the AFC, because I think on any given day, he kind of falls anywhere, in my mind, he falls anywhere in between that number 5 to number 8, depending on the performance in that given week. But, to put him amongst, Mahomes and Burrow and Allen and Herbert and Jackson at this point is tough. We're going to have to see it.